5 minutes. That's all it took for one moment between Chris Sale and Shohei Ohtani to bring an entire ballpark to a standstill. Players froze. Coaches stormed out of dugouts. Fans rose to their feet. And a Major League Baseball umpire delivered an ultimatum that nobody in that stadium had ever heard before: apologize to Shohei, or you're ejected. This wasn't a brawl. There were no punches thrown. No benches cleared in the traditional sense. But what unfolded on that field was something far more complicated, a confrontation that exposed tensions, tested boundaries, and ultimately forced one of baseball's most fiery competitors to answer a question he wasn't prepared for. And at the center of it all? Shohei Ohtani. Silent. Composed. Letting the chaos speak for itself. To understand what happened, you have to understand the atmosphere leading into it. Games involving Ohtani carry a different kind of electricity. Every at-bat feels like an event. Cameras follow him between pitches. Broadcasters drop their voices slightly when he steps into the box, the way you whisper in a church. There is a reverence around him that is almost impossible to manufacture. It simply exists, built over years of performance that defies logic. Chris Sale, on the other hand, operates in a completely different emotional frequency. Sale pitches with visible fury. His delivery is all sharp angles and barely contained aggression, a 6'6" frame that uncoils like a whip with every throw. He is one of the most gifted left-handed pitchers of his generation, and he knows it. He has always known it. So when Sale and Ohtani shared the same field that afternoon, there was already something in the air. Two forces. Two identities. One at-bat that nobody who was there will forget. What exactly did Sale do? The accounts from those inside the stadium are consistent. Sale's pitch, depending on who you ask, was either a serious breach of unwritten baseball rules, a deliberate act of intimidation aimed directly at Ohtani, or a dangerous mistake that put a player at real physical risk. The umpires, who are not known for dramatic interventions, saw enough in real time to take immediate action. The chaos that followed lasted 5 full minutes. Managers. Coaches. Players from both sides. The crowd noise shifted from excitement to something closer to disbelief. Phones went up across the stadium. In the press box, reporters were already typing. This is the moment that separated this incident from a typical on-field dispute. MLB umpires carry enormous authority within the white lines. They can eject players, managers, coaches. They enforce the rules. But they rarely, if ever, insert themselves into the emotional territory of an apology. That is not how baseball works. Players resolve things internally, through the clubhouse, through intermediaries, sometimes through the next pitch. But on this day, the umpire looked directly at Chris Sale and delivered a message that stunned everyone within earshot. Apologize to Shohei, or you're ejected. The stadium picked up on it immediately. Those close enough to hear it fell quiet. Those farther back sensed from the body language alone that something unusual was being demanded. An apology. In the middle of a game. In front of thousands of people. From a veteran ace to the biggest star in baseball. What the umpire saw, or what he concluded he saw, was serious enough to cross that line. Serious enough to bypass the normal choreography of warnings and threats and go straight to accountability. Sale did not immediately comply. He argued. He gestured. He made clear that he did not believe an apology was warranted, or at the very least, that he resented being placed in this position in front of a full stadium. And that resistance, more than anything else, is what extended the chaos. Because every second Sale spent arguing was another second the entire game sat suspended, waiting on one man's decision. Eventually, the immediate standoff was resolved. The game resumed. But Sale was not finished. After the game, Sale spoke. And his words reframed the entire incident in a way that immediately reignited the debate that had briefly cooled. Shohei is to blame, Sale said. 3 words. Loaded with implication. Delivered without hesitation. Sale's position, as he went on to explain, was that the sequence of events leading to that moment involved choices and actions on Ohtani's part that Sale believed provoked the situation. Whether it was Ohtani's approach at the plate, something in the rhythm of the at-bat, or some piece of unspoken communication between the two competitors that only they fully understood, Sale was not accepting the role of sole villain in this story. This is where the incident becomes genuinely complicated. Because Sale is not a player known for backing down from controversy. He has a history of speaking his mind, sometimes at great personal cost. He did not walk back his statement. He did not soften it for the cameras. He stood behind it. And yet, standing behind it means pointing a finger at Shohei Ohtani. A player who, by almost universal agreement across baseball, conducts himself with a level of professionalism and quiet dignity that is almost unparalleled in the modern game. The contrast between those two things, Sale's accusation and Ohtani's reputation, is what made the story explode beyond the stadium walls and into conversations across the baseball world. Ohtani did not respond publicly. He did not need to. This is something that those who watch him closely have come to recognize as one of his most powerful qualities. In a sport where emotions run hot and egos are enormous, Ohtani has mastered the discipline of stillness. He does not take the bait. He does not escalate. He processes, resets, and prepares for the next thing. During the 5 minutes of chaos at the ballpark, cameras found Ohtani multiple times. His expression did not change significantly. He was not laughing. He was not performing outrage. He stood in his space, watching events unfold with the same focused calm that he brings to every other moment of a game. Teammates later noted that in the dugout, before and after the incident, Ohtani's preparation routine did not waver. He went through his process. He stayed in his rhythm. He did not let one man's actions pull him out of the mental space he had built around himself. This is not something that can be taught in a single spring training camp. It is the product of years of deliberate self-construction. Ohtani has spoken in the past about his belief that the body and the mind must be treated as seriously as any piece of equipment. How he eats, how he rests, how he manages his emotions between at-bats, all of it is part of a system. That system held under fire. Even as Sale's words and actions threatened to pull him into the story as a reactive participant, Ohtani remained the still point at the center of the storm. Beyond the specifics of what Sale did and what Ohtani's silence means, this confrontation points to something deeper happening inside Major League Baseball right now. There is a generational and cultural negotiation taking place on fields across the league. The arrival of international stars, and Ohtani represents the peak of that wave, has changed the texture of the game. The unwritten rules that once governed everything from how you celebrate a home run to how you respond to an inside pitch are being renegotiated in real time. Sale is, in many ways, a product of the old code. He came up in a baseball culture where pitchers policed the plate through intimidation, where certain messages were delivered between the lines without anything ever being said out loud. That code was not always fair. But it was consistent, and players understood it. Ohtani exists in a different register entirely. He brings a global audience. He brings a standard of preparation and professionalism that has quietly raised the bar for everyone around him. And he operates with a kind of self-contained discipline that does not fit neatly into the old confrontational frameworks. When those two realities collide, as they did in those 5 minutes of chaos, the result is exactly the kind of uncomfortable, unresolved tension that this incident produced. The umpire's decision to demand an apology was not just a technical ruling. It was, whether intentionally or not, a statement about the direction the league is moving. About what is and is not acceptable when the most watched player in the game is on the receiving end of something serious. Sale's words are on the record now. Shohei is to blame. That does not disappear. It will follow this story wherever it goes, into locker rooms, into broadcast booths, into the next time these two players share a field. For Sale, the question is whether this becomes a defining moment or a footnote. He has survived controversies before. His talent has always been large enough to absorb the noise. But pointing at Ohtani in this context carries a different kind of weight. The baseball world watches Ohtani differently. And by extension, it will watch how Sale handles the aftermath of this differently too. For Ohtani, the path forward is the same path he has always walked, through preparation, through routine, through the next at-bat, the next game, the next season. The incident will not define him. His body of work is too large and too consistent for one confrontation to leave a lasting mark. But the 5 minutes of chaos it produced, the frozen players, the storming coaches, the umpire's extraordinary ultimatum, Sale's defiant response, those 5 minutes told us something true about where baseball is right now. A sport in the middle of its own transformation. Wrestling with old codes and new standards. Trying to figure out, one confrontation at a time, what it wants to be. And right at the center of that tension, as he so often is, standing still, staying ready, letting the chaos resolve around him, is Shohei Ohtani.